Welcome to Let's Effects, the place for newbies, indies, as well as low budgeters. Last week we covered the takeoff effect from Man of Steel, but we also showed this. Now that effect, if you can remember, actually precedes the takeoff effect in the actual movie, but we did the takeoff effect first, and now we're doing that afterwards, even though it's supposed to come first. I don't even know. But let's get the show on the road. Now just like last week, it is highly advised to shoot your video on a tripod. If you shoot a handheld, you're gonna have to track all the things into the shot, and it's just a headache for me, and I'm lazy on top of that, so I shot mine on a tripod. You don't need a clean plate this time, so that's a bit more time shaved off of your schedule. For all the elements, we're gonna be heading to production crate once again. This effect could be really hard if we were using a 3D simulation to create the rocks and the sand, but production crate have got us covered with some really cool rocks floating from the back, from the front, shadowed with some sand. Really cool stuff, guys. You'll see. Here's the footage we're using. The sand, the rocks. Definitely download those elements from production crate in the description. I think most of them are free. Actually, no, I think all of them are free. So that's a bonus. All you have to do is create an account. Again, if you want to know more about that, check out my explosion tutorial. Link up there. Without further ado, let's jump into Hitfilm Express and get this done. Okay guys, here we are in Hitfilm Express. I've got my shot in my timeline all ready to go. I've also got my rocks floating as well as sand rising footage in the media panel. So let's start with the rocks. I'll drag one of the clips into the timeline and then scale and position it close to my hand. We can then move along the timeline just to see if it still looks good further on. If it doesn't, then just readjust the scale or position and maybe even the rotation until it does. Next up, let's color correct those rocks. I'll drag the curves effect onto my clip and start playing with the different channels until it matches my scene. For me, I want it to be more of a dirt looking type of rock, but you may want a snowy look or even a concrete feel. It's all up to you and your shot. Right, once that's done, we can then duplicate that clip a few times or even bring in another variation and place them all around the scene. You can even make them 3D and then adjust the Z position to be right up against the camera. To sell that look, let's head to the effects panel and search for the lens blur effect and drop it onto the rocks footage. After that, you can change the amount to whatever best suits your shot. I'll leave it at this point so it looks out of focus. You can also add it to your other stock clips and leave it at a low number between, let's say, 2 to 5 pixels. This just helps it blend in better so it doesn't look too sharp compared to your original footage. Okay guys, here we have a problem. The rocks start out on the ground, but the rise is too soon in my particular shot. So here's an easy fix. Let's adjust the timing of our rocks footage in the timeline by sliding it around. We want the timing to change when the rocks start to rise. So let's slide it along until, let's say, this point. Then adjust it further until we're happy. Now, what about all that empty space before I hear you shout at the screen? Well, don't worry my friend, and stop shouting, because there's an easy fix. Let's turn off all our clips except the rocks footage and then head to the first frame of our rocks when they're laying on the ground. We can then head up to the left corner of the screen and click on options. Then click export frame. What you want to do then is save that frame as a PNG image and import it right back into Hitfilm. We can then drag that into the timeline right at the beginning and then extend it to fill up the empty space. There you go, solved. Okay, once you're happy with the rocks, let's move on to the sand and dust. I'll drag my sand rising stock element into my timeline at the correct point. Then scale and position it to be in front of my hand. We can then color correct this element by using the curves effect just like we did for our rocks, only this time we'll also be using the tint effect. In the tint controls, I'll select my rocks as the color source and then adjust the tint amount to suit it. You can then use the curves effect to match the sand into your scene. Once that's done, let's apply a lens blur effect like all of our other elements and set it to maybe 3 so it's not too sharp. This is a bit too transparent for my liking, so I'm just going to duplicate that sand a few times and maybe turn down the lens blur amount on those copies. Okay guys, last couple of steps and we're good to go. Let's select all of our elements except the camera and make it into a composition. I'll call mine Wrecker of Cities. That seems good. Now in the comp, let's search for and apply the shake effect. At the start of the comp, turn on keyframing as well as the amount down to 0. While we are there, let's also turn on keyframing for our comp's scale and position. Move forward to the end of your comp and then scale it up a bit and reposition it to your liking. This step is optional guys. We can then turn up that shake amount to anywhere between 25 and 30. For a better transition, let's select all those keyframes and make them smooth. All that's left to do now is turn on motion blur for that comp, kneel before Zod, and guess what? You're a badass. But anyway guys, that wraps up this episode once again. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like down below. It helps us appear in the suggestion boxes on the side. That way more people can see it, more people can subscribe, and we grow our army even more. You can also subscribe down below if you haven't already, and also follow me on Twitter and Instagram for some sneak peeks behind the scenes. You can also follow Production Crate on Twitter, that is in the description, as well as check out their website, check out their paid plan as well as their free plan. Even if you don't pay for anything, you could really get some really cool free elements, which include stock footage, music, sound effects, all royalty free, really cool stuff. Check out their website in the description as well as their YouTube page also in the description with some really cool tutorials. But until next week, I will see you in the next video.